All right, game two between Larva versus Mind. In the first game, Mind just completely out multitask, completely just dominated his opponent in every single way, and Larva just could never keep his head above water. It all had to do with just the crucial problem that I see actually a lot of Zerg players have, which is where they just forget to have a defiler at their natural or their fourth, and as a result, he ended up losing at least like 5 or 6 defilers for free to just siege tanks and scans. That was it. So that was a bit of a mistake from him. Hopefully, we see him shoring up those defenses, making small adjustments, and getting a little bit better about dealing with his opponents. So I talked a little bit last game about the standard Zerg build, how the standard Zerg format has always been to go for this triple hatch build into Mulus, into Lurkers, into Hive Tech, get your 4 bases, and then you just blast out a ton of units. So let me talk a little bit about the Terran side this time around. So Terran has been through quite a few different configurations. The broadest way of describing decision trees for Terran is either you go for an early gas build or you go for an early expand. Those are basically the two broad categories, and then from there you branch off into either bio or mech, depending on what you're going to be doing. But almost always the game usually ends up in the late game transitioning to the mech, because the mech has very strong late game. It's very strong against basically everything the Zerg has. So there's lots of different decision trees you can go there. If we talk about gas-based timings, if you go for an early gas, you end up having a lot of pressure on the Zerg player going for things like early vulture drops, going for early wraiths. You can go for either just a single wraith to put pressure on your opponent, or go for dual port wraiths. You can also go for very early weird ground-based timings. If the Zerg player isn't prepared for that, you can actually just straight up win with that. So there's a lot of different pressures that Terra can do based on gas expansions, or gas builds rather. If you go for a gasless expansion, you're kind of relegated towards going for more of a bio-based build, one that is reliant much more on getting a lot of early minerals and just attacking your opponent a little bit earlier in the game, or sorry, I guess a little bit later in the game, focusing more on your macro instead. It is possible to go fast expansion off of and then go into mech as well. It's a little bit non-standard because you almost always see the bio in this matchup, because bio just gives you a lot more control over the center of the map. But there are a lot of different styles that you can go within each one of those veins. The most common style that we see these days is gasless fast expansion into the bio, and this has kind of been the standard for a long time. This is probably for about close to 10 years. That has been the standard, is you always want to go into bio, because going immediately into mech off of a fast expansion is not all that good. And technically, Zerg can deal with any sort of gas pressure and win the game if they play perfectly. So that's why gas builds have kind of fallen out of favor. So in the vein of gasless fast expansion into bio, Terran has the ability to do a lot of different things. And the most common one that we see right now, popularized by Flash, is the +1 5 racks. This is where you get a very early eBay. You go ahead and go for the +1, which is actually what mine is doing in this game. So you go for the +1 marine attacks, or I guess +1 infantry attacks very early on. It gives you a very strong push a little bit later. Your bio comes a little bit later, but it still allows you to do a lot of damage and control the center of the map, versus the Zerg player, who typically usually has very strong map control with Lings and Mulus. But because you have such strong production, and because your Marines are so strong versus both Marines and the Zerglings, you end up in a pretty good spot. The other main build that is seen today is usually the double racks, which we saw last game, where you go for the quick double racks. It allows you to go ahead and get lots of units early on, and you go for a pre-mutilus timing, which allows you to do a lot of damage to your Zerg opponent before they have the proper tech to deal with lots of bio. The final, I think probably the final most typical transition off of that one is what I like to call just standard build. It was a standard build maybe like 3 to 4 years ago, and basically all the time before that, where you just go for 3 racks plus the academy. You go for early stem upgrade, you try to take control of the middle of the map, or defend versus the mutilus, and then you get very fast tanks and science vessels and go for a 9-minute attack on your opponent. In any case, we won't be seeing that this game. It is going to be the +1 5 rack, so Mine going to be putting a lot of pressure on his opponent. And one interesting thing to note about what Larva did in this game, he actually went for both the Hydrogen and the Spire at the same time. And this is designed just to confuse his opponent. His opponent gets his scans, which will be coming out very soon. He's going to go ahead and scan either the main or the natural, and Larva will probably build the opposite of whatever his opponent scans. So here comes the scans pretty soon. It's scan in the main is going to see the Hydroden. Actually, it doesn't see anything. Missed scan. So actually sees the Spire over there at the natural. And I think Larva is still going to make the Mutilus anyway, because he is very comfortable with that Mutilus control. It's kind of his go-to. But by making this earlier Hydralisk Den, it also allows him to transition a little bit more quickly into the lurkers if he wants to. And wow, actually just immediately had that lurker upgrade already ready. Managed to go ahead and go straight into lurkers immediately off the back of just a handful of Mutilus. And this is kind of an interesting hybrid build. It allows him to go ahead and get full information on his opponent with the Mutilus, do a little bit of harassment, while still getting up a very fast third. So I actually kind of like this small adjustment. I feel like with good scouting, Terran actually can hold this off very nicely. Good auto repair there from Mine. He's going to be able to save that for right now. And right now he's just looking to pressure the natural, see what his opponent has, but there's already at least 1 lurker over there, 2 lurkers coming in now. So that's going to be able to do a very nice job. Oh, trying to go in and snipe those, but wow, that is so many lings. This is actually insane how many lings there are on the map. But the meta blocks are really good. They're going to be able to kill off a lot of these lings in return. Wow, this micro from Mine is actually insane. But the Mutilus eventually come in, they're going to be able to kill that off. And that was very well done by Mind overall. But his first push gets absolutely crushed. The nice thing about that is that 5-racks can continually push, make a lot of units and continually push out. So the pressure is still there. Even though he lost that gigantic army, there's still a lot of pressure out on the map. And Larva's going to have to act quickly to actually get this third base off the ground, make sure he has the lurkers in position. These 2 lurkers are very weak, and that concerns me a little bit for the future, because if he doesn't add a couple more lurkers up to that high ground, he may find himself in a position where Mine just decides to scan, sees that there's not really much up there, and it's just going to go ahead and stem and run up. We'll have to see. But right now Mine is looking for the third base. He wants to make sure that his opponent didn't go for a third base up in the top right-hand corner, but little does he know the third base is actually up in the, down in the bottom left, and this big counterattack going to be coming in. Will Mine be able to deal with it with his reinforcements? We'll have to see. He's going for that SK Terran style, but the science vessels aren't out yet, so his Mutilus are going to reign supreme for a little bit while longer. Mutilus are very weak though, so right now Larva is going to have to want to pull out and make sure that he can reinforce properly. He's going to go ahead and build a couple of extra Sunkens over here at his natural, and I really like that play. I think that makes a lot of sense. Go ahead and get the proper defense that you need for this, especially with more and more stuff coming in. The Marines are trying to get some damage in, but they're not going to be able to do much. This is very well played by Larva overall. He's done a really good job of preventing his opponent from getting any real damage done, but the real problem is that he needs to make sure he gets that third base up very nicely versus this upcoming push. It's going to be coming out across the map. Is it going to be 2 science vessels first, or is Mine going to go very all in with the double dropship first? We'll have to see. It looks like he's waiting for the science facility to finish, so it's probably going to be the standard double vessel first. Usually the follow-up that we see to that is, oh gosh, all the Mutilus going down, and that's a little bit painful to see. But usually we see 2 science vessels first, followed by the double medevac, and that just allows you to get a little bit of map control. Go ahead and start getting that irradiate out to deal with the Mutalisk. Go ahead and potentially break your opponent if they only have 2 lurkers on the high ground, which appears to be the case here. But here, this is the stim up, trying to get on top of this ramp, trying to kill off these lurkers, and because they're a little bit weaker from before, they're going to go down pretty quickly. Still, this has been a very cost-efficient trade from Mind, and Larva doing overall a really nice job of target firing his opponent's Marines, making sure that he doesn't get complacent with those lurkers, and he's actually going to be looking at most of the Marines. These last couple of Lings should be able to actually kill off the Marines. Actually, Medic's OP, so it's going to be a while before they actually die off. Oh my god, I hate Medic. This is why I hate this game so much. you send like 6, like 10 Lings after like 1 Marine and like 2 Medics, and the 1 Marine kills it, and you're just like, I hate life. I hate life. Eventually he does manage to clean this out, and Mind has gone ahead and gone for the double science vessel first. It's going to allow him to break any stalemates at the natural or the 4th base, but Larva's already prepared for all the drops. He's got his Scourge in position. He's done a really fantastic job of just, he knows this timing down pat. He knows exactly when he's supposed to have his Scourge, when he's supposed to be in position for drops. So I really like that he does this so often and so nicely. So right now he's just trying to snipe some of the science vessels as they're coming in. Oh, and he does. He actually gets one of the science vessels right off the bat. So that's really important for him, especially since he has these 2. He has those 2 defilers. That basically just makes his life a lot easier. Even if 1 irradiate goes down, it's really not all that big of a deal. I'd really like for him to spend 1 swarm before he dies. Okay, good. Thank you. I was a little bit nervous there for a second, but wow, Mind actually going up to 7 racks, so he's going to be investing very heavily into SK Terran. We'll see if he tries to go for that ghost style that we actually saw Light do a couple days ago. That would be pretty interesting to see. In any case, this is a quadruple dropship coming in. Quadruple drop is very terrifying because normally as a Zerg player, you only really expend 2 to 4 Scourge per base, and it's and maybe like a 1 subgroup of Lings, but considering how weak that drop defense is versus 4 medevacs, or sorry, 4 dropships, I'm so sorry guys, I'm sorry for the SC2 reference, but it's so much weaker versus this particular one. He sees it right in time, so he's gonna have to get units in position right now, get everything in position as fast as possible, because this is a brutal push. It's coming with a lot of fire bats as well, and oh my gosh, this is so terrifying to actually play against. Luckily, the swarm so far has been pretty good. It's going to be able to protect the main portion of his base. It's going to take forever for him to actually clean up, which is very annoying. But with enough time, he should be able to actually clean this up. Meanwhile, a push is invariably coming down to the 3rd base area. Larva needs to make sure that he has the drop defense there, that he has the proper units to defend. Otherwise, he's going to find himself in a very bad position very soon. But it looks like the Philodin might actually be going down, not able to get over there and kill off those units in time. And this is disastrous for Larva right now. The quadruple drop is so powerful and so easy to actually just completely dominate your opponent with. Looks like Mind actually might be setting up for another push up to this high ground. The lurkers are there, so this is a pretty good spot for him so far, but I expect to see those medevacs coming in pretty soon and get loaded up. But actually, he's just keeping them back at his natural. He's going to wait for a little bit before he actually loads them up, waiting on the pressure, and this is a little bit it's a little bit confusing. It's a mind trick, right? Because Mind is sitting it back at home. He's going ahead and building. He's going to go ahead and load with his reinforcements instead of his immediate units, and Larva's expecting that immediate drop again. So all this time he's wondering, where's this drop coming in? Where's this drop coming in? What's going to be killing me in the next couple seconds? And Mind is just going to continue to drill this natural and this 3rd base while going for the drops. Looks like drops are going to be headed down to that 3rd base very soon. A couple of units in position. Actually, a lot of units running across the map right now. Are they going to actually be able to push forward. These Scourge trying to be hunted down by science vessels, but that might be a mistake. Like the prey has become the predator has become the prey. And wow, this drop just going completely uncontested into this fourth base. This is another just bad situation for Larva. Luckily, his reflexes are very quick. He managed to get in here in time with his units to actually defend, and he's done a pretty fantastic job of surviving so far. And considering that this is almost like a 2-base all-in for his opponent, this really isn't all that bad for Larva. He's managed to keep his 3 bases alive. He hasn't lost too many. He hasn't lost too many of his drones for free, and he's continually pulling ahead in the actual. Wow, sorry. He's actually starting to pull ahead in the upgrades. His Lings are getting very, very strong with the Adrenal Glands with the +1/+1. Sorry, not the +1, but the upgraded melee attacks, the upgraded carapace. They do much better against this bio. And whenever he can get up Ultralist, that is going to be the nail in the coffin for Mind. If he can ever actually get enough gas mining to start investing into Ultralist, he'll be in a fantastic spot to just start absolutely dominating the units that are out here. Because I talked about this a little bit the other day. I think Marines do 1 damage to Ultralist. It's actually hilarious how bad they are versus Ultralist. So that is one of those things to keep in mind for the future, is when Ultralist comes out, this all-in is basically over, and Mind really has to either completely outdrop his opponent, or he needs to really focus on getting lots and lots of mech units up very soon. Wow, those units in position, but not getting behind the mineral lines, and funnily enough, Mind just actually drops behind the mineral line and does tons of damage. Unfortunately, Larva cannot click on his units properly. He's having trouble casting his swarm down there. Eventually, he's going to be able to get that and start cleaning this up with a couple Lings, but this has been a real pain for him to deal with. He's going to go ahead and clean this up with the next set of units, but this has been very difficult for him to deal with. And again, no Defiler in then the fourth base. He's actually going to end up losing all those Lurkers for free yet again. This is what I'm talking about. Larva just making very small mistakes, and it's costing him the game. He's managed to continue to hold the high ground, but he lost a lot of gas in that exchange, and behind this, Mind is already expanded to a 3rd and a 4th base. He's doing it pretty good for himself right now. And with the next set of Lings coming over here into this 3 o'clock base, he might be able to get a little bit of damage done, but Larva's found himself in a position where he just doesn't have everything that he would like to. He got a really good plague that's going to make those medics a lot weaker, and also the science vessels as well. So the science vessels are going to go down very quickly in the future. Unfortunately, just Larva hasn't been able to get any sort of map control for a long time. He hasn't been able to find out where his opponent is dropping, and so these drops are always just keeping him on his toes. He's always got to keep an eye on the minimap. He's always got to make sure that he's not making any mistakes at all. If he makes a single mistake, it could be just lights out for him in game instantly. I like that he went ahead and made a couple Hydras to run up and snipe the science vessels as they come out across the map. He's gonna go ahead and tech into the Ultralist now, but I don't think he has enough money to actually mass produce Ultralist, and that's what really scares me at this point. Even though he has a very strong economy, even though he has a very strong army still, he still can't quite get on top of the units the way that he would like. I'm going to go ahead and send everything over to this base and try to get units in position, but this drop has completely undone him. He's going to try to go for a counterattack in the 3 o'clock base. Can Larva actually pull this off, though? So far, Larva is doing a fantastic job of scanning and sniping individual lurkers, and that's absolutely fantastic for him. But the longer this goes on, this is absolutely brutal and devastating for Larva. Can he actually break this eventually with enough Lings? More units pouring into the 4th base, but with a couple of Lurkers underneath Swarm there, he's going to be able to actually easily hold that off. He really needs to go ahead and make one Mutalisk so he can click on all of those science vessels and immediately delete them. But his attack over here at the fourth base of Mind was very successful. Mind's still only on 4 bases. This has been non-stop action, and Mind just continuing to make tons and tons of bio, now switching into very, almost half and half Fire Bats and Marines. So this is looking pretty brutal. So far, this is going very well for Mind. Can he actually break through these last 2 lurkers? It looks like he can, and again, there's just there's no Defiler in position, and it's very strange to see that in these moments you see Larva forgetting the most basic tenets of this matchup. Make sure you always have that. Make sure you always have that Defiler in position. If you don't have a Defiler, then you just end up dying to these small pushes that make absolutely no sense. All Mine did was A move into the natural, and that was enough. Likely he is eventually going to be able to clean this up, but in the process he lost his 4th base. He's going to be able to clean up a couple of these Science Vessels with the Hydralisk, so that is the one silver lining of this, but he lost his 4th base. He's got significantly reduced economy in his main and natural, and he's just struggling to keep up. Meanwhile, Mine has just lifted his 4th base. He's still got a pretty healthy economy overall, and all it takes is really just walking over to that 4th base, going ahead and landing it, and he's in solid shape. Mine right now just seeing to make sure his opponent is not taking any extra bases, and he's just going to continue to drop. He's just going to continue to put on the pressure. However, the supplies are very even, so if Larva can hold on for a little bit longer, if he can get a couple of Ultralisks out, he's going to be in a fantastic spot. Unfortunately, he's found himself so far just focusing very heavily on just trying to survive, and when you're just trying to survive at this point, it's not a good news for you. He's trying to snipe off these Science Vessels, but so far the movements from Mine have been just absolutely sublime, keeping all of his Science Vessels alive for an extended period of time. Good Plague is going to go down on top of all of those Marines, and that's going to make them incredibly weak to all of these incoming Lings. They're going to be able to just absolutely annihilate that force. So excellent play there from... wow, wait. Did Larva just snipe the 3rd base? Mine forgot to lift off. Oh my god. Okay, well, that is really, 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 really good for Larva. So Larva actually managed to kill off that CC before it was lifted. So actually at this point, Larva has a very good chance of winning the game as long as he takes cost-efficient trades in the next couple of minutes, as long as he doesn't take too much damage for free on top of these from these Science Vessels. That's really my biggest worry at this point in time. He's done a pretty good job so far of defending very, very well. I don't think he realizes how far ahead he is at this point. All he has to do is kill off this force cost-efficiently, and he's in good shape to actually win the game. But he's struggling a little bit too much. He's trying to just send units everywhere, every which way, trying to get as much damage done as possible. But he's killed off all the Science Vessels, and this is a pretty big deal. That's going to be... Wow, this is pretty much an all-in from Mine, trying to do this last-ditch eraser trick, which is actually killing off quite a few drones. So I don't know, the economies have stabilized, and now they're down to about 70-80 supply. This is insane. This is the closest I've ever seen a ZBT come down to the wire. And it really just comes down to how cost-efficient the trades are from Larva. He really needs to get another Defiler out here. Just Defiler, like at this point, Defiler Ling will win this game. That's all it takes, is good Defiler Ling. But if he's focusing too heavily on trying to snipe all these Science Vessels with the Scourge and not paying attention to what's really important, is just getting these Defilers out. They're the Defilers. They're finally coming out. They're going to be coming into the space very soon, and a good Plague can absolutely win this game at this point in time. There's the Plague. There's the Plague. Okay, the Plague is down, so this army force is much, much weaker, and a very good Swarm getting on right on top of all these units, and they're going to start going dropping to all of these Lings. The Firebats are still very, very strong, though, even underneath these clouds, so they're going to be doing quite a bit. This is the last-ditch attempt. Don't give up, Larva. Don't give up. You still got this. All you need to do is just continue to make units. He's trying to go for yet another eraser trick. These science vessels have been causing him so much pain. As long as he can get the correct units in here, he's going to be okay. He's sniped all the science vessels. All the science vessels are down to 32 supply versus 67, and there's the GG from Larva. Not able to fully break it. Mine doing such a fantastic job of keeping up the pressure.